نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear sisters. I hope that you're all doing fine, inshallah, and that your health and your family is all going, all doing good as well, inshallah. So today is going to be lesson number 17th of Qaida session as well. In the previous session, we will be just doing this continuation for today's session. We were doing the rules of Nun Sakin and Tanween in the previous session, and for today, we will inshallah continue the rules of these. We covered the first rule actually. So I, specifically mentioned that you're supposed to practice the exercise and not only practice the exercise from the book, but you are also supposed to look for the examples of rule number one from your Quran, from the copies of Quran that you are using. So I hope that you might have done, that on your part, that effort on your part. So as for today's session, inshallah, we will cover the second rule, okay? So rules of Nun, Sakin, and Tanween were four in number. And we covered the rule which was named as Izhare Halki. Izhar, and specifically the full name was Izhare Halki. We covered this rule, and this first rule was related to the sixth alphabet of throat, right? Six alphabets of throat that we did, right? The Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha, and Ghain and Kha. So what we did was that in this rule, just a quick revision, that if after Noon Sakin and Tanween, like or Tanween comes any letter from the six letters of throat, then we keep the sound of Noon Sakin as it is. We, articulate that clearly, right? We just don't do anything to it. We just articulate it clearly. And that was what was rule number one. For today's session, inshallah, we will cover the rule number two. This rule is termed as idgham. Okay? Idgham. So this rule number two, idgham, the full name can be like idgham, idgham haqiqi. Okay, so I missed this e here. Idgham haqiqi, right? Idgham haqiqi. Idgham terms from the Arabic, it means to enter, to merge, or simply you can say assimilation, right? So idgham rule, we will see that what is assimilating in this rule, right? What is merging in this rule, inshallah. Okay, so this rule says that if after Noon Sakin or Tanween comes any letter from these six letters, which are Ya, Ra, Mim, Lam, Waw, Noon. Again, six letters, right? In the previous rule number one, we covered the six letters of throat, right? The first rule had something to do with the six letters of throat. But today, again, we are having like six letters for this rule, but these are different letters. And obviously, you will have to memorize these letters as well with time, inshallah. So these are Ya, Ra, Mim, Lam, Waw, Noon. So what happens when these six letters come after Noon Sakin or Tanween? Then we enter, blend, assimilate, merge, mingle, whatever you call it, the sound of the letter that comes before Noon Sakin, right? This Noon Sakin or the Noon Sakin that is hidden in these Tanween, right? So what do? We assimilate the sound of the letter that comes before this Noon Sakin, right? Into the sound of the letter that comes before this Noon Sakin. Or, the Noon Sakin hidden in this Tanween. The letter that is before into the letter that is after it. So it means that we'll kind of skip the sound of this Noon Sakin from between, right? If we are assimilating the sound of the letter that comes before Noon Sakin into the letter that is after it, so that obviously means that we will kind of skip the sound of Noon Sakin from there. Okay, so let's see the example, making things easy for you. You see in front of you the example here, which is this example, Mir Rabbikum. Mir Rabbikum. In this example, you see a Noon Sakin here, right? If there isn't any symbol, that too is a Noon Sakin, that too is a vowel-less, indication. So here, min rabbikum. We were supposed to articulate it like min rabbikum. But what happens is that we are supposed to apply this rule now as well when we are learning. So we are supposed to apply this rule, which says that if after noon sakin or tanween comes any letter from these six letters, so yes, we see a raw here. So we assimilate the sound of the letter that comes before it, which is like meme here, right? Meme is before, noon sakin here. We will assimilate the sound of meme sakin into the letter after it, which is raw here. So we will enter the sound of meme to raw here. And it means that the sound of noon sakin from here will be, skipped. So we say mirra, meme and raw, mirra, mirrabbikum, right? Mirrabbikum. I'm not saying min rabbikum. I'm saying mirrabbikum. Okay, so in the next example, again, let's see what happens. You see a noon sakin here again, and after noon sakin, this time you see ya letter here, which again is from these six letters. So again, we will assimilate the sound of meme, or we will enter the sound of meme into the ya that comes after noon sakin. So we will kind of skip again noon from here, noon sakin. So we say my, meme into ya will be my, yaqulu. We will not say man yaqulu. Okay, we will not say man. We will just say my, right? This sound. My yaqulu. Okay, so this was like this was what we have discussed so far, right? For this rule, you will have to again remember these six alphabets again, which are ya, ra, mim, lam, wa, nun. I'll, inshallah tell you the abbreviation in the next slide, how you can memorize these six letters, okay? Okay, so here you see these six letters written, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Yarmaloon letters. Yarmaloon. We have, just joined all of these together and made this word Yarmaloon to remember these letters. Ya, Ra, Mim, Lam, Waw, Noon makes it Yarmaloon, and you can, just remember this word, or, just abbreviation to remember all of these six alphabets. So let's see the next examples here as well. In the first example here, we see min malin. In this example, you see a noon sakin here, right? And before noon sakin, there is meme, and after noon sakin, there is again meme. So meme letter is from the letters of Yarmaloon. So we will, assimilate the sounds of meme into meme now, and kind of skip the noon sakin from here and say mim. This will be meme into meme. We'll make it like mimmalin, right? Mimmalin. Okay, so meme into meme, this will make it like a meme for two times, you can say. This symbol of shad, it indicates that the letter is there for two times, right? I told you in the topic of shadda that we did that whenever a letter has this shadda, it means that that same letter is there for two times. In the first case, that letter has a sakin. Sorry, in the first case, that letter has a, sakin, and then we enter into the next letter, the same letter. So that is how we have, okay, so that is how we do like the, we repeat the sound in that letter. Sorry for confusion. Okay, so in this word here, we will do, what we'll do, we will enter the sound of meme into meme sakin here and say mim malin. The next again here, same way, meme letter, and after noon sakin we have letter lam. So we will, lam is from the idgham letters, the letters of assimilation, right? Six letters of assimilation. So we'll enter the sound of meme into lam and say milla, like this. Milla, milladunka. We will not say min ladunka. Min, we will not make min sound, right? We will not articulate noon here. We will say milla, mi and la. Milladunka. these were the examples we discussed with regards to the noon sakin. Let's see the example with tanween as well, because noon sakin and tanween share these rules all, right? So here in the next example, we have a tanween of fathatain here at the end of this first word. Ta'ifatan, tan, the tan at the end. And after this, first word, you see a letter meme in the next word. So if after noon sakin or tanween comes any letter from these six letters, right? We see a meme here. So yes, meme is from these six letters. So we will assimilate the sound of the letter that comes before noon sakin and after noon sakin. So in this case, right, you do not see a noon sakin apparently. Apparently, you cannot see it, right? Because noon sakin is hidden in this tanween. So let's kind of break the sound of this tanween. The tanween is on this, round ta letter here, right? If we will, just write tanween like ta, fatha, noon, sakin, tan. Ta fatha noon sakin tan, it makes the sound of ifa tan. So this is the same tan, but here now you can see a noon sakin here. So what now we will apply this rule of idgham here, right? We will kind of skip this sound of noon sakin. So what is remaining here, right? The letter that is remained here is ta fatha. So it means that we will say طائفة ta tam. We will enter the sound of this ta which is remaining here. We will skip the noon sakin and we will enter the sound of ta into the meme that is there on the next letter. Right? So why I have told you, in this method, which you might find a little difficult because I have, just made a mess here, but the point is that you simply remember that in case of again tanween, we have a noon sakin hidden here. But just let's simplify this. So what we are doing here is rather than saying tan, the full tanween, we will just enter the tanween into the meme here. Tam. So this way you cannot hear the noon from their noon sakin. Tam. Right? So why we did this? Because we have applied the rule of idgham here, which says that if after noon sakin or tanween comes any letter from these six letters, we enter, the sound of the letter that comes before the tanween, before the noon sakin into the letter that comes after it. So we have done this thing. طائفة minhum. Let's see just another example. خير يره. خيرا يره. In this example, again, you see a tanween of fathatain, right? And after this tanween, the next letter that you see here is ya letter here. You're not supposed to say, okay, we see an alif here. That alif I mentioned to you in the lesson of when we did the tanween of fathatain. I mentioned that whenever there is a tanween of fathatain, it has, an alif followed, right? Alif follows this tanween. So this is just the way of writing this fathatain. So after the tanween here on khayran, this is run here. Ra fathatain tanween run. And after this, we have a letter ya here. So ya letter is from these six letters of idgham, right? You see a ya here, right? So what we will do is that we will just say khayran, ra entering into ya, rain. Rather than run, we will say khayran yara. Okay, so this is the way we will, just assimilate the sounds, right? We have just discussed a few examples with regards to both noon sakin and tanween now. Okay, so for now, you're just supposed to just absorb this thing for a minute, okay? You can just see the heading once more. You can see what this term means. Idgham means to enter, to merge, assimilate. You know that, this rule is of noon sakin and tanween. And by far, you also know that this again rule has something to do with six letters now. And obviously, for that, you will have to remember these six letters one more time. Okay, so let me tell you another thing about this rule now. The rule says that, this is just mentioned here, that rule is related to these six letters, right? But what happens is that this rule of idgham is divided further into two types, right? I have marked these arrows here, that this rule is divided further into two types. And again, the six letters that are there in this rule, they will get divided into two categories, which is like four letters at one side and two letters at the other side. The division of this, the division of these two categories is based on the way we are assimilating the sound, right? I told you that we assimilate the sound of the letters, one letter into the other in this rule, right? So sometimes what happens is that the assimilation is complete, right? Assimilation is complete sometimes, and sometimes there is incomplete assimilation of one letter into the other. So on the basis of these two things, we have divided the rule into two types, and we have again named these two types as well. The rule number two in general is named as idgham, idgham hakiki. You can say the full name is idgham hakiki, or you can just say idgham. So the two types that they are further divided in, let's see those as well. The types of idgham are, idgham with gunna and idgham without gunna, right? These are the name of the two types, idgham with gunna and idgham without gunna. So what is gunna here? Let me just explain this term first of all, that gunna is again, an obviously Arabic term, or you can say Tajweed term. Gunna means staying for a bit on a letter and making a nasal sound. Staying for a bit and making a nasal sound. You can just simply remember gunna, this word here, that it means making a nasal sound. Okay, so this is the name of the two types, idgham, like assimilation with gunna, and assimilation without gunna. Also, you can just name these two types of idgham as complete assimilation, right? This term here, or incomplete assimilation, right? Complete assimilation, incomplete assimilation. The complete assimilation is, another name for it is idgham without gunna, idgham without making a nasal sound. And the second one is incomplete assimilation, which we can also call idgham with nasal sound with gunna. Okay, let's just put the names aside for a bit, and see the examples, because inshallah example will make things easier for you. Okay, just quickly moving on to the example here. First of all, let's see this example here, which is mir rabbikum. We have already discussed this example on the previous slide as well. Mir rabbikum. I mentioned that there is a noon sakin here, and after noon sakin there is a letter ra. So yes, ra was a letter of six letters of Yarmaloon. So we kind of, assimilated the sound of meme into the raw that comes after noon sakin, and said mir rabbikum. And what happens in this assimilation is that it is termed as complete assimilation. Why complete assimilation? Because we are just entering the sound like meme sound into the raw sound and saying mir rabbikum, right? And the noon sakin that is in between is completely kind of ignored, is completely skipped. You cannot hear any sound or any nasal sound as well, right? So the sound of noon sakin is completely hidden from here, and we say mir raw. You can only hear meme and raw here. No, noon here. No noon sound here, noon sakin sound. So that is how there is a complete assimilation, which means that both the nasal and the sound of noon sakin from here is skipped from here. Let's see another example written below, which is milladunka. Again, noon sakin, and after that there is letter ra here. What we are doing is we are assimilating the sound of meme into the lam letter here. And meme and lam, you can only hear the sounds of these two letters, meme and lam, milla, milla. No noon sound here, no nasal sound of noon, no sound like the articulation of noon, or no nasal sound of noon. We know that noon letter is a nasalized letter, right? So min ladunka. So in this example, the first, I'm discussing about this noon here, noon sakin, you cannot hear it. So this first category, this first type of idgham is termed as idgham without, nasal sound, without gunna, and we just, there is this complete assimilation. And the noon sakin sound is completely ignored both in the simple way and also, in the examples of tanween as well, you will see that you cannot hear the noon hidden in the tanween as well. The second, okay, so I just forgot to mention that this first type is related to the two letters here, which is lam and ra here. Lam and ra here, this is, they make a complete assimilation. So let's kind of, just cross, kind of mark these from here. This lam and ra, they were related to the first rule. Remaining, we have these four letters from these six letters, which is ya, mim, waw, noon. So these four letters, ya, waw, mim, noon, these letters comprises the second type, and which is incomplete assimilation, which in which there is this nasal sound, this gunna remaining of the noon sakin. So let's see the example here. Man yaqulu. Man yaqulu. In this you see a noon sakin, yes, here. And after noon sakin you see a letter ya, which is this ya from these four letters. So what we are doing here is that we are assimilating the sound of meme into ya here. Meme into ya here, and we will skip this noon sound from here. But what happens is that as we are trying to assimilate the sound of meme letter into the ya letter, the the nasal sound of noon letter, we are just unable to hide that, because that is something very something that happens naturally. So when we say may yaqulu, meme and ya, we do not say may yaqulu, mayya. What we do in these is that we make a nasal sound here at ya letter and say may. How do we make this nasal sound? I mentioned this gunna term, this nasal sound, that we stay for a bit on that letter and we then make a nasal sound. You can hear me. I am saying my yaqulu rather than man yaqulu, right? I'm not saying man yaqulu. I'm saying man yaqulu. I'm giving some time here at the ya letter here, right? I'm just giving some time, and that is how I'm just making a nasal sound. Man yaqulu. You just do not say this quickly. You're not supposed to say man yaqulu. You say man yaqulu. Okay, why you do this? Because afternoon sakin there is letter ya here. So this ya letter, we are supposed to do the idgham here, do the assimilation here with gunna, with nasal sound, right? This will be termed as incomplete assimilation, because even though we are not articulating the noon sound here, but we are keeping the nasal of noon with as it is. We are keeping the nasal sound. So I've mentioned these 2 points, that the nasal of noon stays, but the sound skips from this noon sakin. But in the first type, both nasal and sound skips. Okay, so in the next example, طائفة منهم طائفة منهم. In this example, you see a tanween of fathatain on first letter, and after this tanween on this ta letter, you see meme letter in the next word. So yes, meme is from these four letters now. Those four letters of idgham with gunna, with nasal sound. So we will not only enter the tam into the ta sound into meme here, but we will make a nasal sound intentionally as well. And I told you how we are supposed to make this nasal sound is that we skip on the letter here, the second letter, right? The letter into which we are assimilating the sound. We skip on, we stay on that letter for a bit, and that is how we make a nasal sound. So we say طائفة منهم. You can hear when I say the ta sound, when I enter into the meme, I say tam, I stay on the meme here. Tam minhum. I do not quickly move by saying tam minhum. Ta'ifatam minhum. I do not do this. Rather, ta'ifatam minhum. I stayed here on meme. I made a nasal sound because meme is from these, human letters. Ya, wa, meme, noon letters, which are from the second type of idgham. So we are making a nasal sound here in these letters. And yes, this is the topic of idgham, right? So for the second type of noon sakin, second rule of noon sakin and tanween, we did, that rule is named as idgham. Idgham means, entering one thing into another, the assimilation of two things, right? All of these things, refer to idgham word. So what happens in this second rule is that there are six letters that we need to remember, which are yarmaloon letters. Ya, Ra, Mim, Lam, Waw, Noon. Again, these six letters are further divided into the, two and four letters. And both of these types are, have different names. Why they have different names? Because, they have, the way the assimilation happens in these two categories. That is why, we are supposed to just differentiate these two together. So we have discussed these two with examples as well. So I hope that inshallah you will try to memorize the six letters of this rule as well. But yes, let's move on to the exercise of this as well. So what you will do is that you will just see, you will just look for the noon sakin and tanween first of all, because we are doing the rules of noon sakin and tanween. So first step will be you will look for the noon sakin and tanween. When you look for the noon sakin and tanween, the second thing that you will do is that step two will be you will look at the letter that comes after noon sakin or tanween, right? And you will see that if that letter coming after noon sakin or tanween is from those six letters of yarmaloon or not. And if that letters is from those six letters of your Malun, right, then again you will have to see which type of idgham you will apply there on that word, right? So let's do this exercise in that manner. We have already discussed, the first word here, right? May yaqul. May yaqul. In this example, you see a noon sakin, and after noon sakin, you see a letter ya. So ya is from the six letters of idgham. But just looking for the types of idgham, this is the second rule that we have discussed, which is idgham with gunna, right? Idgham with gunna. So this means that the assimilation will be incomplete, which means that the sound of the noon sakin will be gone, but the nasal will remain. So let's do this. May yaqul. May yaqul. I'm assimilating meme into ya here, but keeping the nasal of noon by staying on the letter ya and making a nasal sound and saying may yaqul. I'm not saying may yaqul. I'm not doing this quickly. Let's see the next example here, which is miwalin. Miwalin. In this example, again, you see a noon sakin here, and after noon sakin, you see a letter waw here. So yes, this waw is from those six letters of your Yarmaloon. And just looking for the type of idgham, this is the second type of idgham again, which is incomplete idgham, because this waw is from those four human letters now. Ya, waw, mim, noon, of the second type of idgham. Ya, waw, mim, noon. So we will skip the sound of noon, but the nasal of noon sakin will remain, and we will say miwalin, right? I'm giving time on wow here and saying miwalin. The noon sakin will be just gone, but the nasal will remain miwalin. Okay. The next one here is, after the noon sakin, you see a letter meme here. Mim, malin. Meme sakin, meme letter, and then we are assimilating that again into meme. So this will make the meme for two times, right? The shadda meme. So that is why, you see a symbol here as well, the shadda symbol. That, we say this meme for two times. We are assimilating the meme into meme now, skipping the sound of noon from here. And let's see the type of idgham as well. The type of idgham again is the second type, which says, the incomplete idgham. So we will make a ghunna here. Idgham with ghunna here. So we say mim malin. We stay here on meme again, right? Mim malin. Okay, so the first three examples that we have covered, they are all related to the second type of idgham specifically. Let's do the next one. Min ni'matin. Min ni'matin. Here in this example, after noon sakin, we see a noon here again. So in this, yes, the noon here is from those 6 Yarmaloon letters, and the type of idgham will be second one again, the incomplete idgham. Idgham with the human letters now. So we are entering the meme into noon this time. We'll skip the sound of noon from here, but nasal will remain because this is incomplete idgham. So we say min ni'matin. You are specifically supposed to focus that I'm not articulating this noon sakin here, right? The sound of noon that you hear is the second one here, right? I'm skipping the first noon sakin here, but the second I'm articulating. So you're not supposed to confuse by saying, right, that I'm articulating the noon. So I'm saying min ni'matin. I'm staying here on noon and making a nasalized sound because of the second type of idgham here. Min ni'matin. Okay, so let's see another example here. Milladunka. We've already done this example as well. Afternoon sakin, we have a letter lam here. But what happens is that this is the first type of idgham that we have covered. The complete idgham here, because afternoon sakin, we have a letter lam here. The first type of idgham was related to the letter lam and ra, right? Just the two letters. So here we see the lam letter. So we'll do the complete assimilation of meme into lam, and no nasal sound or no nasal, no sound of noon will remain. We say meme and lam. Milladunka. Milladunka. Okay, meme into lam and no nasal. We just quickly say milla. Milla. I'm not saying mill, no nasalized sound making on letter lam here. Milla, just quickly saying this, meme and lam. Milla, milladunka, sorry, milladunhu at the end, ha letter at the end. Okay, so this was the second type of idgham. This was the first type of idgham, which is complete idgham, idgham without gunna, the assimilation without gunna. The next example here is again, related to the first type of idgham. And here, you see a letter ra after noon sakin. So we will do complete idgham and say mir rabbika, mir rabbika. Meme will enter into ra without any nasal sound. We just quickly say mir ra, meme and ra, mir ra, mir rabbika. We will not say mir, right? No staying. You will not make a stay here on raw here. So we just say mir rabbika. Okay, so we have done this thing, and I just want your special attention to this thing that I'm going to mention now. So what happens is that, let me just okay. So what happens is that when we are, doing this assimilation thing, when we are doing idgham and all of these examples that we have done for now, what you can, just notice is that the letter that we are assimilating into, which will obviously be the letter after noon sakin or tanween, right? The letter that comes after noon sakin or tanween. What happens is that sometimes you will find a tashdid, the shadda symbol. right? The tashdid means the shadda symbol I'm mentioning here. We have already covered this as well. This symbol that you see above, right? This W, small w kind of symbol. Sometimes the letter you are assimilating into, you will find this shadda symbol written, and sometimes that will not be mentioned. Let me just, tell you. In the first word here, you do not see a shadda symbol here on ya letter, which comes after noon sakin. We do not see that. In the next example, after the noon sakin, there is waw letter. Again, you do not see a shadda symbol here, right? Let's see the next one. In this example, you see a shadda symbol on meme letter into which we are assimilating, right? On meme here, after noon sakin, we see a shadda symbol, the small w kind of symbol. Okay, so let's just take this one here. After noon sakin, there is letter ra and you see a shadda symbol. Again, after noon sakin on lam letter, you see a shadda symbol. Here, after noon sakin on noon letter, you see a shadda symbol. But in this example, you do not see a shadda symbol after the noon sakin on the ya letter, right? So, just kind of, with all of these, by just looking at all of these, we can just sum up something. We can just, conclude something, which is, what I would just want to mention to you. Okay, so what you see in front of you is that uh, you will see that whenever afternoon sakin or tanween comes, ya or wow letter, ya letter or wow letter, you will not find any shadda written, right? You will not find any shadda symbol written. For example, here in the first example and the second one, on ya and on wow afternoon sakin, you do not see any shadda symbol. So Shadda symbol can be, can help you remember that we are supposed to do idgham. When Shadda will be there on wow, we can say that we will enter the meme into wow here. So, but Shadda symbol is not mentioned in case of, wow and ya. When ya and waw comes, shadda symbol is not mentioned. But what happens is that in case of, meme, noon, lam, and ra, after the noon, sakin, and tanween, you will find a shadda symbol written as well. This shadda symbol. Let's see again here. In the third example here, on meme letter, you find a shadda symbol. So you are not supposed to just confuse, okay, idgham is related to these six letters, right? So in case of the first two, you will not find a shadda. In case of these four, you will find a shadda. But nevertheless, you are supposed to do idgham in all of these six, right? You are not supposed to get confused because of the symbols. Okay, so for the first two, ya and wa, because there isn't any shadda symbol, so you will obviously have to, they require your special attention for idgham. For doing assimilation, you just do not wait for the shadda symbol to show up. Okay, you will still do the idgham, but you will not obviously find shadda symbol. But in case of meme, noon, lam, and ra, you will find a shadda symbol. So that will help you to, just know that, okay, we're supposed to do idgham there. What I'm mentioning the point here is kind of like a detailed point. Okay, if you do not get these points, what I'm telling you, for now, you can just simply remember what the rule says, like the definition of the rule and the six letters. This is, the what I'm mentioning will inshallah help you when you will start reciting and when you will look for these small symbols as well. Okay, so that is why I'm mentioning right now as well. So what will happen is that I've just kind of summarized this thing for you. Inshallah, let's move on to the next portion of exercise. The previous letters that I have not covered from the exercise, you are supposed to just practice those on your own as well. Let's just quickly do these a few of these as well. شيء نكور شيء نكور. Okay, so in this example, you see a tanween. After the tanween, you see a noon letter here. Noon, shay. Okay, so you see a noon letter here. After the tanween here. So noon letter is from the second type of idgham, which is incomplete idgham. So we'll make a nasal sound. We'll make gunna by staying on this noon here. We will say shay'in nukurin. shay'in nukurin, right? I'm staying here on noon. And yes, you see a shadda here as well. I have mentioned to you, right? Whenever noon comes, there will be a shadda. So you see a shadda as well. And if you remember just something I told you in the previous sessions that we have covered as well, that this is like a side note that I'm mentioning here, that whenever there is like meme with the shadda and noon with the shadda, we discussed this thing in the lesson of shadda as well. That whenever there is meme with shadda and noon with shadda, we make a nasal sound there, in a general way as well. So we say thumma, inna. We made the nasal sound on noon tashdid and meme tashdid as well. So, in this example, you see a noon shadda here. So we're making a nasal sound, as well here. That same nasal sound. We say shay'in nukurin. In the next example, let's see, which this example is related to which type of idgham. بِأَخِلَّكُمْ بِأَخِلَّكُمْ. Here you see a tanween on kha letter, the tanween of kasratain, and after that there is letter lam. So yes, this is related to the first type type of idgham, which is the complete idgham. So without any nasal sound, we say bi akhilla kha, assimilating the kha into lam. Khillakum. We're not saying khil. We're not making nasal sound. We just say bi akhillakum like this. ثمرات رزقا ثمرات رزقا. Ta letter here with tanween of kasratain, and after that there is a raw letter. Let's see the type of idgham here. This is the first type of idgham, which is the complete idgham, right? The first type of idgham is only related to the two letters, which is lam and ra. So we will make a complete idgham without any nasal sound. We say tirrizqan. We will assimilate ta into ra. Tirrizqan. We do not say tir. We do not make this sound. We just quickly say tirrizqan. ثمرات رزقا. Right, like this. And the next example, سحر يؤثر. سحر يؤثر. Here you see a tanween of dhammatain on sorry, tanween of dhammatain on raw letter here. Okay, so things have quite messed up. Let me just search this again. Okay, so here tanween of dhammatain, and after that you see letter ya here, right? So ya letter, let's see the type of idgham here. This is the second type of idgham, which is incomplete idgham, in which there is a nasal sound that is remains. So we will enter the sound of ra into ya, but there will be a nasal sound of noon. Sihrun yu'tharu. So when we enter the ru sound into ya, rui, rui, we stay on ya for a bit. Rui yu'tharu. Okay, sihrun yu'tharu. So that is how we do the idgham here, do the assimilation here. So this is the way you are supposed to do the remaining session here. Just let me say this quickly. عذاب واصب. Entering bow into wow sound here, right? عذاب واصب. سحر مبين. طلع نضيد. نفس لنفس. نفس لنفس. غفور رحيم. These were, just the example of both of the types of idgham. And for now, just kind of quickly summing up the session, right? We have done second type. We are supposed to remember certain points related to that. First of all, what the term of the second rule means, six letters related to that, and, then again the two types related to that, and then learning what wunna means, right? Learning what the making a nasal sound means. And we also did this thing that there is sometimes shadda written and there is sometimes shadda symbol that is missing there, but still we do the idgham, we still do the assimilation thing. So the last point related to this topic is that exceptions of this rule, right? Exception of this rule are just 4 words, because these words come in Quran, so that is why we are supposed to learn these, because they come very very much. So let's see this first of all, the for words here, which is dunya. You might have read in Quran a dunya, or just dunya word, which is like world, right, which means world. Bunyanun, qinwanun, صِنْوَانٌ. So these 4 words are exception to this second rule of idgham. Why? Because in all of these 4 words here, after the noon sakin, you see the letters of idgham, the 6 letters of idgham. For example, in the first example, after noon sakin, we have a ya here, which is from the 6 Yarmaloon letters. But still, we do not assimilate the sound of the letter that comes before noon sakin, which is dal here, into the letter after it, which is ya. We do not say duya, right? This word is dunya. We do not say duya. We do not assimilate the dal into ya here. Why? Because this is an exception to this rule now. So rather than saying duya, we say dunya. We articulate the noon sakin here. We do not skip the sound, neither the nasal here. So the second example is bunyanun. Bunyanun. Bunyanun here, after noon sakin, again ya letter is here, but we do not say buyanun. Buyanun. Rather, we articulate noon sakin here as well, because this is an exception again. In the third example of qinwanun, after noon sakin, we see a Yarmaloon letter of waw here. But we do not say qiwanun. We just say qinwanun. We articulate noon sakin here. We pronounce that, because this is again an exception. And the last one is swinwanun. After noon sakin here again, you see a vowel letter here, but still we are articulating noon sound and saying swinwanun, because this is again an exception here. So this was what was related to the second rule. I've covered all of these points. I hope that things are if not clear, clear, or all of the things are not clear, still I hope that you just remember the kind of crux of this second rule. And inshallah, you can listen to the recording again if something is not clear, and you can inshallah personally ask me as well by texting. So I'm just ending the recording here. If